You're welcome to the Policy Council. My name is Okwemi Agbaje. Today we focus again on education, but not business schools and not universities and all that, but the foundation of education. And I don't bring one professor who is an expert, but I bring someone who teaches children every day. Enjoy the program. You're welcome back. It's the Policy Council, and we're talking early childhood education. We're talking about the education of children. We bring all these professors and experts who talk about universities and all these things. But before our children get into university, the foundations are bad. So I thought to bring someone who knows about the education of children. Mrs. Abisola Obasonya. She's an early childhood educator. She was head teacher at Meadow Hall. She's been in teaching children for 15 years. You're welcome to the Policy Council.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so let's talk about the education of children. In your view, let me start with your view. How would you assess the state of children's education in Nigeria from your experience?
Wow. I'll look at it at the point of equality. It's not equal. The Constitution says that the government owes every child an education which is equal. But if you look at the private sector and the public sector, there's a far gap at which the level and quality of education has been produced. And the children start in nursery and going on to primary school. And it goes on to the universities and on to, when they graduate. With the nursery, if you look at a public nursery school, and which are really few, and a private nursery school, they are way apart. The teachers are different, the mode of teaching is different, and the policies guiding them, that's really, really different and separate.
And we know that probably 80% of the population are in these public schools.
Yes.
So what you're telling us, and what we do know, is that from the very beginning, we disadvantage 80%
yes, the foundation,
of the population.
Actually, yes. The foundation, from the beginning, the foundation should be taken care of. If the foundation is not right, we will not have an excellent education. And if you look at it, we still have a lot of children that are not even in nursery school. I do not see the government really focused on early childhood education. There's no proof that there's excellent early childhood education. We still have a lot of nursery children not in school. It is not compulsory for children to go to school so early. As long as they have the experience that the experience that those in school have, it is fine to stay at home. That's about like homeschooling. If you look at countries like Finland, they don't go to school until 6. But we need to ensure that they're not in the market, or they're not selling on the roads. They're not, we need to ensure that they're learning language even if they're at home. They're learning from their parents. They're not being abused. They are cared for like the children that go to school.
But we know that they're not. We know that in reality, any child who doesn't go to a private nursery school between the ages of maybe 18 months to 2 years and 5 years is because the parents are poor. And it's because that child is probably just running around the compound all day long. He probably doesn't speak a word of English, most probably, until the day this child lands in primary 1 in a public primary school. That child is already at a severe disadvantage.
Definitely.
Let's focus on even the private education system, where we have these fantastic, beautiful, and expensive private schools. In your view, are the costs which parents incur matched by the quality of the education that the children receive?
There's so many excellent nursery schools in Nigeria, especially in Lagos and in other parts of Nigeria. There's some private schools that should be shut down. They're not adequate, the care is not adequate. What goes on there, the teaching and learning is not proper. So some should be shut down. And those that are doing well, some are overpriced. If you look at the level of cost of living in Nigeria, schools are getting overpriced. You have schools, and there's no guidelines, so there's no stopping. So there's no, and even the teachers, there are no guidelines. So minimum wage, what to pay teachers. So there are not really strong policies guiding
So you're highlighting major gaps in the regulatory role of
I believe so.
In relation
I believe
to
so. I believe so. I think
schools.
if you look at a child at age 4, 5 can learn 4 languages, can learn Yoruba, can learn English, French, and any other language around. So if we miss the gap, those are the sensitive points. You see children that speak well, they start from the early childhood. Children that reason well, children, you know, you say breastfeeding helps children. You know, all of those things, we need to ensure those things. And not just focus on the public sector. It should be a policy that should go around across board. Then the government owes every child excellent education. If you look at other countries, you don't have to go to a private school before you go to an excellent school. I went to a secondary school. It wasn't a private school. It was a relative good school. Now you cannot go to a lot of the public schools, except for maybe the missionaries are taking over and there's change in government. Once you know it belongs to the government, you have to question it. Although I know the Lagos state government is doing a lot better than other states, but we're looking at Nigeria in total. What are we doing in the federal level? What is the policy for the children? What are we doing? What do we want in the nursery school? It should cut across.
Uniform.
And it should be a standard.
Okay, let's take a short time out. We'll come back and I'll talk about teachers, the quality of teaching. We'll be right back.
Government wants our city to become a mega modern city. And so, government is providing modern markets for us to carry out our business. Now, this requires money. So, we need to pay our taxes to help government to help us. I pay my taxes. I hope you've paid yours. I pay. Pay your tax. It's your civic responsibility. It's your duty. It's the law.
You're welcome back. It's still the Policy Council and we're talking about the education of children, and I have someone who teaches children to discuss this with me. So let's talk about you, teachers, you and your colleagues in the private and in the public sector. What will be your assessment of the quality of teaching, especially in relation to children? Do these people who are teaching our children, do they have the right training, the right disposition, even compensation? Are they well motivated to teach? Are they specialists in regard to the teaching of children? What are your views?
Teachers are key practitioners and they're key in the lives of the children and in education. Education means to be schooled, and teachers are the key people to school. If a school is not full of excellent teachers, you will not get excellent teaching and learning. And excellent teaching and learning comes from excellent trained staff. But you do not see a lot of that. You know, I don't want to be negative, but if you go to the private sector, there is a tendency you see better teachers than in the public sector. Some governments are doing a lot more and better than some other states. But we're looking across board. The mode of teaching, what training should a teacher get? Look at the NUT, what kind of training goes on there? There's a lot of lapse in the teacher's training. We need to, as a nation, say who should be our teacher? I was reading the policies, and part of the policy says anyone over 21 can have a BSc, should be a caregiver in the nursery. That means anyone. So there's no standard like you should be trained. It goes higher and say you should go to NUT. But when you look at other professions, you have professionals.
Some defined standards.
Some defined standard. In Nigeria, we should have a standard to say I'm a teacher 1. So I have a basic qualification. Then you move higher and higher. We don't see that. A lot, especially in the private sector. In the private sector, it helps because most of you get graduates. And now it's law that you have a postgraduate or a degree in education. So that is helping. But we need to check the teaching and learning practice, even in the schools, in the universities, how they're training the teachers. Teachers, you know, sometimes you look at teachers and you're like, is this a teacher? You cannot give what you do not have. So it's how exposed you are that you can impact in the lives of the young children. If you do not speak well, your kids will not speak well. You can't teach children to speak well. If you do not write well, you cannot tell the children you're not.
There was this case in Kwara State where the then Commissioner for Education, who is now the Minister for Sports at the federal level, went to a school during exams and then asked the teacher to take the exam she had set for the children. And the teacher failed woefully.
Wow.
So obviously, maybe the Ministry of Education has set those exams. The teacher administers it. Probably, you can't even grade correctly an exam that you couldn't pass yourself.
Yes.
So it illustrated to me the extent of the gaps in the training of teachers. And you can imagine the destiny, the fate of those children is sealed.
That's why you come out and you know all the formulas, you've crammed all but you cannot apply them. You can't write a letter. It's getting worse now with texting. It's getting so worse. People cannot write basic English because of the culture. We have to take it, from the foundation and from our teachers. I've been a head teacher, so I don't spare. I try to look inwards and see what I can do better to become a better person. Maybe take classes to help me speak properly, phonics classes to help the children and help myself also. This needs to cut across.
To be institutionalized.
Yes, there should be a standard that if you see a teacher, like I know years ago, my grandfather used to be a teacher. His handwriting I can never forget. All of that there should be a standard, whether in the public or in the private school. The class in the public school should not look any different from the private school. It should be my choice that I want to go to a private school, not because I cannot. I'm sorry, I cannot send my child into a public school now. So all of that should be.
It all comes to standards, inspections, regulations.
We were talking about remuneration for teachers. That's another thing. There's no standard. So you can enter into private school A and you get paid this amount, and you enter into B, you get paid. So from here you do 2 months, and when you get another job, you move to the other one. It's even worse in the public sector. I think it's getting better in Lagos. We live in Lagos, so it's getting better. But I inquire in some other states, and I'm moving to these states. I'm doing a project about redoing CSRs and redoing some public schools. And I heard the teachers how much is a teacher? How much is the salary of a teacher? And I heard 15,000 naira.
Wow.
I heard 20,000 naira.
Wow.
And I'm like, how will a teacher survive on a 15,000 naira budget?
On that serious question, let's take another time out. We'll be back and we'll talk about curriculum and other issues around children's education. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We're talking about education for little children, and I'm talking to a teacher, a head teacher, a children's education expert, Mrs. Abisola Obasa. Abisola, let's go to curriculum. Sometimes I worry, are we even, you said, for instance, that a child before the age of 5 could learn 4 languages. But guess what? I think the highest number of languages you see in schools are English and French. Many don't even have Yoruba. Many don't even have Igbo, Yoruba, the local languages. So the children learn English only, essentially. I'm not sure about the quality of mathematics, algebra, all of those things. What are your insights into the curriculum at the childhood level?
Curriculum is a key point in education because it encompasses everything. Curriculum has to do with the infrastructure, the teaching and learning, the kind of staff, everything in the school has to do with the curriculum. So it's part of the policy that we should have excellent curriculum. I've looked at different curriculum. I looked at the best schools in the world, Finland, Canada, compared them with our curriculum, with the UK curriculum, the US curriculum. And I see that we have a good curriculum, but it's the approach at which we bring it to, we bring it out to the teachers. Number one, it's not readily available. So you don't readily find a Nigerian curriculum on the internet where we all search for. If you go now and Google, you get a UK curriculum and you can look at that. You can train with it and go on. Even when schools say they are teaching the Nigerian curriculum, what they mean is that they are teaching in a strict manner, not that they are expressly following what's in the curriculum. If you look at the UK curriculum versus the Nigerian curriculum, the first model, it's basically the same thing, but it's the way it's written. I'll give you an example. In the UK curriculum, the first, when you come to a nursery school, it's all about me. So you're talking about the child, the name, everything, my father, pictures, all that. If you look at the Nigerian curriculum, it's the same thing, but it's noted personal identification. And they're saying the parents should bring the forms, All of that should have been done. The biodata of the child, the language is different, is so strict. These are done by wonderful, excellent. I was opportune to meet some of the people and well-meaning people. But I feel there should be a stakeholders meeting. Let's sit down, the young, the old in the sector, everybody, the experienced teachers, the new teachers. Let's sit down and look at the curriculum.
How can we improve this?
Can we improve this curriculum?
Can we make it more contemporary?
Yes, it's excellent. I've seen a teacher teach the curriculum before, and she held it's even in a lesson plan, planned way, and it's fantastic that way. And she held it and she started telling the nursery children, so your children, your mothers are supposed to do this, they're supposed to do that. Children don't learn that way. Children learn through play. They learn through games. So if you say we're doing personal identification, and today we're going to learn about ourselves in games, fun way, and all of it. So that's the difference. Looking at the curriculum also talks about infrastructure in the schools. It's in the public sector. It's in the private sector. It's like a competition. You see the green grass. You see the trees. You see the fields. You know, you want your child to go to a big school. Oh, this school is beautiful. In the public sector, you find very big schools also. You find trees. You find different lovely things. And it's nice for you to play soccer and football. But when you go into the classrooms, they are planned for the talk and talk I'm talking about because there are no resources around. And sometimes you hear, oh, it's the money, the government. There's a way to improvise. Even in the NERDC policies, it says that schools, public schools, can, you know, you can use a tire to make your playground. You can have an improvised playground. So it doesn't have to be the imported playground that we all bring. But it's the matter of
So it's not
policy.
about money, it's about resourcefulness.
It's about being resourceful. It's about where our focus is.
Let's talk about testing.
Yes, sir.
How do we test our children? Are we using the best way because they are children? Or are we over-examining them? Are we over-stressing them? I mean, what are your reflections on this one?
Especially young children, play is the work of young children. Play. And there are two types of play. There's free play and there's planned play. Free play when children want to play. They still learn. Because you can leave a child at home playing with other people. They will learn to talk. They will learn to smile. They will learn to be pleasant. They will learn to... But when you bring them to school, yes, they get more experience and it's planned. I don't see why a Nigerian child should learn the 30-something states in Nigeria. What for? You know, what for and what value? What value? We should question that. What value? Education should be a lot of site-based education, so you know your surrounding. You go on excursions to the Oba's Palace near you. You know your teacher's name. You live around. You know about trees. You know about that. You're well informed. I talk about the leadership problem we have in Nigeria, and I say it's an education problem. If we teach children ethics, fairness, oneness from childhood, and they do it in the primary, they do it in the, we wouldn't have you know, such bad leaders.
Excellent. Let's take another time out. I'm enjoying this conversation with a teacher. We'll be right back.
Who knows Abi better thing? Abi who know like better thing? All these fine things where they see so. Now money government they take do now. Abi, I think it's like, you know, I mean, excuse me, I dey pay my tax. I dey do a thing, I dey pay my tax. Say you don't pay your own tax. If you pay your tax, I pay oh.
Pay your tax. It's your civic responsibility. It's your duty. It's the law.
You're welcome to the last segment of my discussion with a teacher on children's education. My guest is Mrs. Abisola Obasonya. She's a former head teacher, 15 years a teacher. She's an expert in teaching children. And we'll come to that acolyte discussion in a second. But I asked you about testing, and we didn't take your response in the last segment. What do you have to say about
testing in the nursery is very controversial. It's done a lot in the public sector. Some private schools do believe in testing also. But I'll tell you my take, and based on experience, what testing is. Testing in the nursery is at the end of the term, like we do in the primary, you have you know, some assessment questions, and you call a 2- or 3-year-old, and you say, Bola, what number is this? And if Bola doesn't feel like, as most children, is this number 9? Bola can point saying yes or no. So the teacher will say, okay, when you're serious, I'll come back to it. Most of the times, the teachers are the ones answering the questions. I've witnessed, and I have a video of a teacher telling me, Abu, tell me, what is the opposite of, and he would not answer. You know it. We did it yesterday. Tell me. It can be done through teacher's observation. It's the same way. It should be a normal thing in the class. So when you teach and you want to confirm you've taught and you give them sums like a normal day, there shouldn't be a separate day for testing. Testing should be done through the books of the children. Oh, as he acquired the skill, he's supposed to know. As he acquired the skill, he's supposed to acquire in this subject area. For example, reading. Can he read? What level, at which level can he read? How many words can he read? That should be the testing. It shouldn't be
one
an
special
exam
moment,
yes,
which you then ask him.
The children tune off. Tell me the states. Tell me 1 to 1,000. Write it now. What if I can write 1 to 1,000? But at that point, I don't want to write. You know, so as a child, you know, children in the nursery are a different caliber. They don't feel like they tune off. When they don't understand what you're trying to, your aim, they tune off. That's why when you're teaching in the nursery class, you tell them the objectives. You know, so today we're doing this because, you know, the learning areas, you bring it down to the level, you know, but testing should not be done the way it's been done in the nursery or across the nation. It should be scrapped.
So Abisola, let's come to talking about learning through games and play. You are director of Arclight, which I'm told is an exclusive distributor for Lego education in West Africa. So your Legos are games, isn't it? And you're trying to sell games to these children so that they can tell us about that.
What Lego education is about is STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math.
Okay.
That's promoting science, technology, and engineering and maths in West Africa. Lego education are actually different from the Lego games. They are learning resources. They are resources made in Denmark to aid classroom discussions, to aid learning in the classroom. So it starts from the nursery. They have durable things from the durable resources from the nursery and on to the primary robotics. They learn to use the robots and they learn to play with the robots. They learn to understand science, technology, engineering, and maths through the use of the robot. It's a different way of teaching. It's the 21st century. It is where Nigeria should be. Nigeria, we should be at par with the Chinese. There's not. We go for the robotics competition and children born and bred in Nigeria competing with other children in the world. We do this every year, and we do get there. We do the same. We get the challenges. Sometimes we need to work on the time and make sure we are like in the other words, but we're getting there and we're moving and moving. So robotics to me is key. And with the Lego education resources, we get to work with private sectors trying to help in the public sector to transform the classroom. So we transform the classrooms and ensure that they have adequate educational resources that teachers can use. The children are enjoying and they're learning. They learn numbers.
Which ages?
It starts from age 1. That's in the nursery onto the universities.
Really?
Robots. We have some engineers learning engineering with robotics in the universities, and they've never seen a robot. They've never programmed a robot. Children, now the UK curriculum says children from the age of 5 should start with the learning of robotics, the programming of robotics. If children can play PlayStations and can play games,
that's robotics.
Children have neurons in their heads that if not tapped at an early childhood, it would die. So what we're trying to do is we're looking for creative ways in West Africa, especially starting from our base in Nigeria, to ensure that a Nigerian child has that what the Constitution says about promoting science and technology. We are trying to do that so that in every school, not just as a club, but it would be part of the curriculum. We see that science and technology is part of the curriculum, and that will be the evidence. If you use Lego robotics, Lego resources, you will be able to transform learning, and our children will be up to par with any child in the world.
Excellent stuff. Okay, Abisola, thank you very much for telling us a little bit about how to raise the standard of higher education, not necessarily through the hard work, but through creative approaches like the Lego games. We'll be right back. I enjoyed my conversation with the teacher. There are 4 things she brought out that I want to stress as we close. One, children learn better through play, through natural means rather than artificial forced teaching scenarios. Secondly, the place of robotics, games, all of those things in educating children is very important. Thirdly, we must modernize our curriculum, make them more creative, more interactive, especially for children. And finally, she stressed the point about standards and regulation. Whether it's public or private sector, we have to create standards. And we have to regulate and ensure that they are complied with. That's been the program for today. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time.